Hello, welcome to Bars and Bells. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Ian.
And this is our class. Today we are introducing a new apparatus. You might have one of these in your house. It might look like this, but it probably doesn't. So it could be an ottoman, a step, or anything low, a chair.
Sounds good. Something stable. Using this bench, we'll be exploring our Captain Morgan hip flexor pose, as well as a nice position for some tight hamstrings. But first, let's get ourselves standing up. And as usual, it's the bar class, specializing in lower body mobility and upper body strength. And there's some kettlebells back there as well. So bench and bar body ready. And it's usually Lauren's foot warm-up that takes us into the practice. Let's start with that.
So with a hand on a balance aid or practicing in space, let's gently take a leg, stand on it, pushing the standing leg hip forward, and take the other leg to the front. Right now, let's pull our toes to our nose without moving our ankles, and then point our toes. Repeat, toes to nose, and then toes point. This time, toes to nose. Now the ankle will follow. Then we'll spread out those toes as we're pulling that ankle in that dorsiflexion position. Then we'll point the ankle and finish with the toes. One more time. Toes, ankle, spread the toes out, keep them in line with the foot, then ankle, and finish with toes. Let's take that leg and lightly rotate it open and send it to the side and repeat the same thing from here. Toes, ankle, ankle, toes. One more time. Toes, ankles, ankles, toes. We'll turn in on the leg, flex the foot, keep it straight as we return it underneath, and repeat on the other side. Front, standing hip push forward. Toes first, then point your toes. Flex toes, point your toes. Flex toes, flex ankle, spread open those toes, point ankle, point toes. One more time. Toes, ankle, toes spread, ankle points, toes point. We'll turn the leg open. We'll send the leg to the side. One last time. Toes, ankle, ankle, toes. I lied. One more time. Toes, ankle, ankle, toes. Turn in on the leg. Flex the foot. Straight leg underneath. Give that a little shake and wiggle.
And those directions were super clear, although sometimes Lauren lies. But talking those little things down low, I got a little confused too. But emphasize that toe connection to the floor and balances and the mind-body control of all things big and small. Let's take it next to our apparatus here. And Lauren will face the side. Let's move that to the front using our perfect hinges, of course. There we go. And for me for some gentle directions here, and Lauren's side profile will cue this nicely as well. So pull up a single leg of your choice to that box apparatus. We've both chosen our right, and that's very convenient because with both hips, yes, we have two. Let's do our tailbone cow shape and really emphasize driving the femurs into the hip to accomplish that cow or anterior tip. To do the to do the cat or the posterior tuck of the hips, think driving the femurs out, pressing the femurs out of those hip sockets. Let's repeat that again. Tailbone shaped like cow. No, it's not your back doing this. Yes, it is the hips and the legs. And do one more time of your cat, get my animals right here, with a posterior tuck. Now, the two hip component is to keep your standing hip as a gentle cat or posteriorly tucked and compress that femur back into the hip on the bottom. And as it's doing for me, it's twisting my body. So I believe my hips are square. Now take 10 seconds to find that place where your sternum or center of chest lines up with your belly button, lining up with other private parts down low. And then let's just ease off that effort and return ourselves to standing. Let's alternate and repeat on the other side. With control, pull up. How high should this bench be? It should be an easy task to get your foot onto this apparatus. And again, maybe just not as high as as high as the knee. Here we are, tipping back like a cow. The spine is staying the same place, it's the tailbone, and then we're tucking under like cat, posteriorly tipping those hips, pushing femurs out. To compress those femurs in the hips drives that tailbone towards a cow shape, and driving femurs out tucks under the hips into a cat. Now tuck under, squeeze standing leg, and compress. This doesn't taking me all the way over in rotation, but it's likely that it does. So find that place again where the hips are facing forward, and so too are the shoulders. Then light effort, let's return that to the floor. Shall I keep the mic for one more repetition, or shall we hand it to Lauren and carry on in a second?
Do one more.
One more.
And then we'll get into our first kettlebell hold.
So here we are then, pulling up to the knee, onto the bench apparatus, and already we have our tucked under standing hip and our compressed femur in on the elevated side. Now, hike the hip up on one side and then press down on the foot to level out those hips. Repeat again, a little bit of a hip hike. We would love our body to tolerate that position, but also identify that place where our hips are able to stay nice and level. Repeat one time. That number 3 is Lauren's favorite number. And then press down into the foot on the bench. Squeeze your standing leg now and return that to a tall standing position. Alternating. Easy does it. Place it up. Square up, tuck under the standing, squeeze your butt cheek for stability, and then the task was to gently hike the hip and then pull the hip down by pressing through that standing leg. As I hike up, I do feel a little compression, but not a bad thing in this low back hip area. And when I press down, like I can see Lauren do, I feel my buttock on the top leg and that hip flexor psoas stretch on the bottom. It's the final repetition, a hip hike, then find those hips nice and level, cramp your standing butt cheek for stability, and return that leg to the ground. Shake and wiggle. We'll come back for a hamstring variation on that in a second. But until then, it's back to Captain Lauren here.
Yes, and Captain Lauren says, can you move the bench, please? Because we're going to lie on the floor and hold our kettlebell in our firing range position. So we have a little bit of a heavier bell here today. We're going to be holding it in our various positions, starting on the floor. So no rules. Come on down. Lie down. So I'm figuring out how to do this. We're going to lie down here.
Lie down.
Lie down.
Never turn your back to the audience, but okay, we're here.
Grade 9 drama. Now from here, we're going to cuddle our bell, roll and press. This is our setup position for our get up, which we do in our Tuesday night classes. But here we are just getting used to holding a kettlebell. So hallmarks of this position once you're here are nice neutral straight wrist, shoulders pulled out of your ears, our pinkies driving towards the ceiling, our lats engaged, and those little rotators in the shoulder are working hard to keep this bell nice and stable. We have same leg bent, foot flat on the floor, the other leg nice and straight. We're holding for 3, 2, turn 2 hands to the bell, pull it down, maintaining a vertical forearm, and then cuddle this bell to the floor. The cuddle may seem a little silly, but it's very important because one day these bells are going to be even heavier than they are now. We'll repeat the same action or the same move on the other side. Starts with a cuddle, 2 hands roll your back, 2-handed press, set up your get up leg, so same leg bent as the arm that's holding the bell, other arms on the floor just off the belt line. Pinkies driving towards the ceiling. We feel some of that kettlebell load through our forearm, but not through our wrist. Shoulders packed, lats, lats, lats. Think about doing a get up with this bell. This might be a stabler shoulder or a stable shoulder. More stable, probably.
Thank you. Grade 9 drama and English teachers are now
down.
happy.
2 classes I didn't pay attention to. Roll the bell to the floor, let go. Stand up, trying to use no hands if it's okay.
That's a fun task. Nice. So yeah, maybe Lauren didn't excel in English nor drama, but here we are putting it all together. And thank goodness Lauren did excel in accounting and math, because that's not my strength, as I probably will lose track of how many reps we do here. Step back just a little bit, and you better square up that bench, says Lauren. Okay, we did that too. Now, with a little bit of room between, we're going to straighten out that leg on the top. So pull it up, make it nice and easy, and place it on the top. Now, to stretch the hamstrings, if we are going to call that movement the stretch, you might prefer to plant flex that foot or dorsa. Dorsiflex, that foot to shin shape, probably gets you behind the knee a little bit more. And if you plant flex, that might get the muscle belly. Which one should we do here, Lauren?
Dorsiflex.
Dorsiflex, that's foot to shin. We have 2 hips. Very casually, do that tailbone cow shape in both, tipping your tailbone back. Then, without moving the spine, tuck under. Now gently tip the tailbone back with both. The bottom leg of ours is very straight, so we're going to aim the shin vertical, but press the hips back as if we're getting into that kettlebell hinge, like a swing. The spine is long, reaching through the crown of the head, holding some time under tension on the hamstring, and then squeeze your standing leg butt cheek to extend through to tall. Now looking at Lauren's leg, that kneecap was turned up, or neutral in the middle. To try something different, let's just externally rotate in the hip, so now the kneecap is slightly off to the side. If we can we tailbone tip like a cow to anterior tip of the hip, and then hinge, pressing hips back. That might change that location of stretch, but making sure that the standing hip is still reaching forward. Then push the hip through to be tall. If we do that one more time, which is the direction, orientation of that femur bone that hits you the best? Lauren and I both return to the middle. We're going to gently anterior tip our hip. Although the hips are going back, the hip on the standing leg is staying forward as to avoid the rotation that will intensify that stretch or load on the hamstrings of the elevated leg. Then push through to be tall. Control, return to the standing leg. Finish nice and tall. Maybe enjoy a little shake and wiggle. Personally, that feels nice and light when I'm done that. A little bit of work, of course, during the moment, but it feels nice after. We hope that's the same for you. Pull up to the ankle, then onto that standing bench apparatus. Are those hips and shoulders squared up facing forward? Gently from here, tailbone tips like cow, and a slight hinge. We don't need to be that person of any age or any gender, but namely old men, cranking those hamstrings, putting their nose on their knees to try to stretch a hamstring. We can get enough load from this modest movement right here. Then squeeze your standing leg butt cheek, finish nice and tall. Again, we've dorsiflexed on that ankle. Let's do our external rotation, that femur rolling out or kneecap to the side, and same effort. A slight bend in that standing leg, but keep the shin vertical and breathe into a nice hamstring hinge here. Squeeze your standing butt cheek to finish nice and tall. We've done one middle, we've done one out, and now let's go back to that middle shape or choose the stretch that feels great for you, and same effort. It's a tailbone tip like cow. We're hinging back. And I'm talking a lot here, so thank you for listening, but making sure that you can breathe and talk through this type of a stretch. Place your attention on the stretch, but never let it take away your breath, and let's finish tall. We're going to use that bench one more time in a second, but until then, it's back to Captain Lauren and that kettlebell.
All right, so we did our lying down hold. This time we're going to bring that hold and hold it like a suitcase because we want to go on a trip soon.
Where are we going? Where are we going?
Oh, TBD still.
Okay.
So let's get that bell out, place it on the floor appropriately, stand right over top of it, using our hinge, picking it up with one or two hands, whatever you feel comfortable with. Chip chop, one hand grips, maybe use the second hand to cuddle, pick it up, put it beside you. Likely to narrow your stance from that hinge position. As we're here, our shoulders lightly elevated, retracted. We're pushing down and out on the floor. If I was lazy, my weight shift would go to that bell side, but I'm not. So I'm going to shift my weight almost away from that bell. You can maybe see me quivering. You can hear it as I'm using that opposite side abs to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. Return it to center. 1 or 2 hands hinge. Let go. Up without. Let's switch and do the same thing on the other side. A chippity chop. 1 hand, 2 hands, lift to the side. Again, I'm pushing down and out on the floor, keeping my shoulder elevated and retracted. Cage forward. Breathing, embracing, pushing down and out on the floor. Opposite side is working hard. Hips are pushing lightly away from that bell. Shoulders staying up for 4, 3, 2, return it to the front. Use your hinge to place the bell down. Stand up without. Well, that was some work.
I agree. So if you join us for our Tuesday class, that kettlebell strength class, Lauren was using a slightly lighter kettlebell, as was I. Today, a little bit heavier. Bridge those gaps between reps that you can do for time and tension, and then just those kettlebell holds. It's also a great place just to start your kettlebell practice as well. Let's return to the bench. We'll do 2 quick things here per leg. Pull up to the ankle and then originate that leg on the bench. We have our tucked under standing leg. We have our anterior tip with the femur driving that action on the elevated. Now to turn off the side butt cheek muscles that are so strong and powerful, but to get in touch with that psoas that chronically needs to be stretched with so many people, let's AB, meaning reach that leg away from the body. Now make this safe, but challenging, and pretend to lift this leg off. And when you're lifting the leg off, we want these side hip butt cheek muscles over here to be quiet, and we want to feel that tension going through that psoas or hip flexor, and then relax. If we can maintain hips to level and a safe cramp on that standing leg, for one more time, let's try to lift that leg up. If there's a lot of separation between your apparatus and your foot, that might be a nice helpful place to place the foot to start your next round of drills on your own or the next time we do this online. Then return it to the floor or the box. Adduct, meaning knee to middle, finish with control, and finish nice and tall. What you do on one side, we'd love to do on the other. Up to the knee, onto the bench, standing hip tucked under, front one pulled in. Then AB out to the side, and checking that those hips are nice and level, pretend to lift. In studio here, a lot of times people say, whoa, that's a lot of work on my standing butt cheek. And that's a good thing. We need that stability before we, for 5 more seconds, try to mobilize this leg as to lift up on the hip and just casually rest. If the pretending task was okay, let's try to actually lift that leg. And here we are again. I believe my hips are nice and level. I think Lauren's are too. We have soft TFLs and glute medials over here on the lateral parts of our body, and we're holding it with the hip flexor psoas, as well as our bum cheek in the back, of course, and then gently down. Nothing works in isolation. It's always that balance back and forth. But in that drill, it's psoas and butt, not the front lateral part of the hip. Now let's do the same thing for the last time using this bench, at least this way. We might do that seated figure 4 we talked about. And now, straight leg variation. For this, should we point the foot, Lauren, or should we dorsiflex? What do you want?
Pointed is good.
Point. We'd like to have high tension in your foot. So it doesn't matter what shape as much, but point, plant, flex, dorsiflex, just none of that soft foot in the middle. Pretend to lift the leg. We're turned out, by the way, we're turned out.
Inseam up.
Inseam up. Pretend to lift the leg, and if pretending is going well, lift the leg and hold for 3 and 2, and casually return that back down to the bench. Maybe a little shake and a wiggle, but start with that standing leg glute cramp, compress the femur in the hip, and lift. And think lifting from that brief line, middle line, groin line, whatever we're calling that landmark on the immediate part of our leg, return it to the bench, and then finish standing tall. Told you I couldn't count. Thank goodness Lauren is here. Then, for more than just that, of course. So pull out to the front. We have that plant flexor pointed foot and do our external rotation in the standing leg. Are we also squared up facing front? Squeeze that standing leg butt cheek, turned out of course, and pretend to lift. It might be hard enough to just pretend and feel that isometric tension before we actually lift, and then relax. All good there, Lauren?
Yeah.
Okay, and rest for a second, and repeat that one more time. It could just be the pretend, or in fact, apply that lift, and the leg is straight, and you're breathing throughout. Return it down with control, and maintain integrity throughout that whole movement as we then finish tall. I thought I did too, but I like watching you. Looking pretty good. Got those nice level hips. Up with control, down with control. Make those simple things appear simple at least, but we know that they're very challenging.
So we did our suitcase low hold. Now we're going to bring that bell up into the rack position and hold it as if we're going to press it. We'll stand over top of the kettlebell, use a 1-2 cuddle. So one hand grips, second hand cuddles, zip up your body and punch through that bell. As we're here, we might be thinking, wow, pressing that bell, you crazy, but I'm not. Well, so baby finger points up towards the ceiling, vertical forearm, nice straight wrist, cage over top of hips, hips pushing forward, gently pushing down and out on the floor, thinking about driving that bell to the ceiling. Not today, that lat is engaged, abs for 3, 2, 2 hands on, tight to the body, hinge it back down. Let it go, shake it out. Sometimes spending that time in that rack position is harder than actually pressing it. That pause there will make it challenging. Let's use our hinge and do the same thing on the other side. A hip hinge, a pull zip, punch through. Again, vertical forearm, nice straight wrist. Pretending to press this bell. As you pretend the shoulder stays low, the arm would move. Breathe.
Ooh, shields, glutes.
Push down and out on the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2 hands on, tight to the body, place it down. Let's just stay here, take a second. I want to do 1 2-armed hold, and then we'll have an optional final round of holds before we go today. This 2-handed hold, we're going to rotate the bell a quarter turn and do our pull catch to get that bell to the goblet position. Hip hinge, a quarter turn, now pull, re-grip down the sides. Bell is off of our chest. Blades are retracted. Lats engaged like you're pulling the bell apart. Breathe. Cage over top the hips, but hips pushing forward. Now keep the shoulders down, but look through the bell. Oops, I winked to the wrong eye at you. Pull it back down. Pull the blades apart. Pull the kettlebell apart one more time. I did it again. Right eye winking. Pull back down. Use your hinge to place the bell to the floor. Shake it out. We'll have one more optional heavy hold before we go today.
And our final movement for the low body today uses this bend again, and it's that figure 4. We can do it from standing, we can do it from seated, we can do it from laying on the ground, but it's always about promoting core stability to have hip mobility. Be careful as you step over that apparatus, and you can face front, Lauren, or to the side, whichever you prefer, and have a seat.
This will show my really good external rotation.
Yes. This bench personally is probably a little bit low as I was doing it in my own practice, as I'm a little bit taller, but make it challenging and strict. 2, take a big breath in, lift the ribs away from those hips, and lift that leg, and can you place it on the top of the knee? And I can't quite do that, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a boost, and there we go. Now, if you look at the bottom of your foot, or at least the heel, we want the heel to be flush with the outside of that seated leg. That might already be that piriformis style stretch, making sure this feels safe and okay. From the power of the adductor, those groin line muscles, and your lateral bum cheeks, could you lift the knee towards the opposite shoulder? Moving or adducting that hip or leg towards your midline. Then using the power of that butt cheek, could you lightly press the knee towards the floor? Breathe. Repeat, light effort. Pull the knee towards that midline, making sure that we're not hiking the hip or tipping on those ribs. And from the power of the butt cheek, light effort, push down. Now a little bit more intense, but maybe not as big of a movement. Place your hand on the middle of the leg, provide resistance with that top hand, and pretend to pull. And when you pull, could you feel those obliques?
Pull
the leg up.
Including the ankle?
Nope.
Just the thigh, like just the action we just did.
Just that same action, but creating that isometric or that tension. You could feel maybe oblique pick up for stability, and those groin and lateral bum cheek muscles work for some power. Just relax that effort. Alternately, place the hand outside of the leg or the bottom side of that leg that's elevated, and sit tall. And now resist, but press from the hip down towards the floor. Feel those same core muscles engage and those lateral butt cheeks. Follow with a nice relaxed face. For the very last time, pull the leg up towards midline, then casually unhook the foot and return to the floor. Same thing, other side. I think Lauren did a really good job there. The likelihood is that we'll try to lean back to make room, try to stay forward, just like in those kettlebell holds she explored earlier. Same thing, other side. Pull up the leg. Ooh, that's a little bit easier. We'll probably have one that's a little easier, maybe a little harder, depending on the side. Again, I had to help it there, but it's okay that it's here. It could be enough on that piriformis to just rest in this position. But again, we want to move from this position if allowed. So engage those abs, sit tall, and adduct, meaning bringing the knee from the hip to the shoulders. Then from the hip, you're trying to press that knee away from the body towards the floor. Repeat one more like that, adducting and hip flexing, bringing the knee up, and then that AB and extending as we move that leg back to the ground. Now take a hand, the same on the side if it can reach here, and without moving, carefully adduct Isometrically, meaning high level of work, but no joint movement, and feel some attention on those obliques, maybe that stretch load on the adductors. Casually relax, easy in, easy out. Now same thing, other side. So my hand is on the bottom side of that leg now, and from the power of my butt cheek and the stability of my core, I'm trying to press that leg towards the ground for 3 more seconds. 2, 1, and then gently relax. To dismount, pull the knee to the midline. That's actually easier for me. I'm not sure how that feels for you. Hopefully it's the same. And return it to the floor. And with core braced and a little up, stand up, finish nice and tall. And as promised, 1 more core hold with that kettlebell.
All right, your options are go back to the floor and do your firing range. Lift it back up, low suitcase carry. Revisit the rack position. Goblet hold, you'll have to do that twice. Or you could take that bell and get it overhead, and we could finish with that overhead hold. You must feel comfortable doing that with this heavy bell. You'll probably use your legs to get it there. You might press it, up to you. Pick your move. Okay. First side, however to get in it, pull it to the appropriate place, get it to the next phase, and hold. We have, if we are overhead, the more straight that elbow, the easier it is. Everything is nice and stacked right on top of each other. There might be some little stability muscles firing to work hard, but we can hold that bell here confidently. If we're in those other positions, or no matter the position, we have butts, we have abs. For 3, 2, pull the bell down, return it to the floor, let it go, shake it out, repeat the same thing on the other side, or redo that goblet hold if that's what you chose. Hip hinge, get it into its appropriate place, and hold again. If we're overhead, elbow is straight, shoulder is low, bicep is near the ear here, cage is over top, pushing down and out on the floor, breathing and holding, driving those pinkies towards the ceiling. Bell is over our forearm, not rotated over the back of our head, for 4, 3, pull the bell down like you're doing a chin-up, 2 hands, return it to the floor. Ooh.
Just because Lauren makes that look easy, 18 kilograms, we know it's not. And just because we didn't do too much big movements with the bench in the stretch and strength series, the rewards are great. Do those small things, those holds, those little stretch and strength tips for big rewards in your wellness practice, your workout, fun times, and most importantly, your lifestyle after the workout.
Thanks for joining us today. We're back Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for our body weight practice, where we'll be crawling around and working on some single leg activities. Everything starts again next week with some more workouts throughout the summer. Remember to like and subscribe on our YouTube. Check out our website, including signing up for our newsletter or reading the latest blog entry. And we do have a Patreon page. Until next time, take care.
Stay strong.
Let's train soon.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.